an all-round Wonder Woman because not only are you a coach, a leader of love, but you're also a mom of two young boys. You're a businesswoman. You have a business with your husband that you both are the owners of and run. That's a big, list of responsibilities right there.
It is. It's busy. Yeah.
You wouldn't have it any other way, right?
No, absolutely not.
But you've taken more of a turn into the forensic healing part. So I'd like you to explain that a little bit more for our community, because it's also something that I want to start doing, and I think you probably do a better job of explaining it than I would.
No worries. Yeah, so I came across forensic healing about 18 months ago now, probably coming up to 2 years ago. And I knew I was missing something. So with everything that I teach, and you would know this, Ria, like when you invest so much in yourself and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, we know the science behind everything of, where change needs to come from and how and why and those sorts of things. But I just found, especially when it comes to changing habits, you could follow the plan, which has been proven by science of how to break a habit. But if the plan's not followed, the habit's never going to change. And I was like, okay, well, this is to do with emotions and behaviors and beliefs. Mm-hmm. So I was searching and searching. I was like, I know there's something more that I need to learn about this side of change. And when I came across forensic healing, I literally got goosebumps. And I knew straight away, I'm like, this is it. This is what I need to do. And, it was one of those things that when you find that soul aligned thing that you need to do, that next big thing, and you do it, everything just falls into place, and that was the response that I got after signing up for forensic healing and completing my diploma there. Just the changes that happened, just with business, relationships, everything, just my whole world shifted again. So I knew that I was on track with what I was learning. It's been amazing. Yeah. Life-changing.
I love it. I love it when we truly find, like, we feel and we know in our heart that we're on the right course.
Yeah.
And that's why I know that that's something that I need and want to add to my arsenal.
Yeah.
But tell us a bit more about the practice itself. I mean, you and I, we both practice muscle testing, kinesiology aspect of things. So we've evolved from trainers into nutrition, into, the science behind movement and all these sorts of things. And then we've taken a twist into the mindset, growth, personal development, spirituality aspects, because we've seen firsthand that these things give us the answers without the guesswork, which is what I always like to say in terms of muscle testing. Well, hang on, let me not guess. Let's just check in and ask the body, and then the body will give us the answer.
100%.
So I feel personally that forensic healing is, again, that next step.
Yeah.
So if you want to explain, like, how would you explain that it works? What's the difference between that and muscle testing, what we do now?
Yeah, well, I guess the difference between them both, the muscle testing, I find nothing beats it when it comes to creating personalized protocols for clients. So when it comes to nutrition protocols, supplement protocols, even training, training programming and things like that, to be able to get that direct feedback from the body, applied muscle testing is like number one when it comes to that sort of, that tool. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to forensic healing deals with the other side. It's looking at blockages and things that are trapped in the body. So, for example, when it comes to movement patterns, if there's tightnesses there that we're stretching or we're doing this, strengthening up the weakness, and it's still not changing, there's an emotion behind it. So it's like, physical things can change. Things that have been caused by a physical issue can be changed with physical tools. But things that have been caused by an emotional issue or it could be a spiritual issue, we need different tools to target those changes. When it comes to creating, better habits and, our beliefs is, at the top of the list when it comes to creating change. Mm-hmm. So if someone truly doesn't believe that they're worthy, or that if they truly believe that when they achieve their goal, you know, oh, life's going to change so much and, you know, I'm going to be treated differently. They're secretly sabotaging themselves, but they don't know why, you know, why they keep going back to eating that junk food and, you know, those sorts of things. So that's where I found the forensic healing kind of slotted in nicely. But honestly, if it wasn't for my knowledge of the body and understanding, you know, how different organs link into different, you know, issues and, you know, all of this sort of stuff, the way the body functions, and having a tool that I can use to be able to test the energy flow through meridian points. There's parts of forensic healing that when I first started reading through the manuals, I was like, I'm never going to use this stuff. Like, this is so way out there, almost to the point of what the hell have I got myself into here? Like, it was almost a bit frightening. It was just so far, so out of my comfort zone. But it wasn't until like I'd have clients, because working with clients from our PT studio, you know, usually it's to do with health, underlying health issues as well. So when we're supporting the body from that metaphysical aspect as well as the physical, you've got, you know, a meridian point that you can work on. And if a spirit or soul pathway, healing pathway would come up, I'm kind of like, well, I have to just go with it because that's what's come through. And checking on that meridian point to see, just say it was, you know, they weren't digesting food properly, for example, it's to do with their small intestine. And then there's soul healings come up for their small intestine amongst other physical healings, but then testing the flow of energy through that point before and after the healing pathway and seeing that actually changes. That's what made me start to become more open. And, you know, I had no choice but to accept that, okay, I have to drop the ego and I have to drop this, like, this fear. It's like a spiritual fear that I had of like, what am I getting involved in here? What is going on? I had to drop it because I couldn't deny the changes that were happening in the body. So yeah, it's been amazing. The results that I can get with forensic healing versus the results that I would get just with applied muscle testing, it just speeds up the process tenfold. Yeah.
Beautiful. And before we lose too many people, because you and I tend to get a little bit too technical sometimes, but I think that the beauty of what you just said is, and I actually would probably take a step back and say the mental barriers generally is what stands in our way, because mentally we've programmed ourselves to believe that there is only a certain way of things to be done, or a certain way or a certain capacity that we can accomplish. And so we set those pre-frames and those barriers that we're like, well, no, that's impossible. That's not possible. And so with all of these tools that we're constantly sharpening our swords with, you know, it's only to help us better help and serve others. So it just gives us greater clarity for the person who's coming to see us. But it is very important to come in with an open mind and an open heart, to because questions are the answers. But if you're not open to receiving the answers, well, then you're never really going to get that fulfillment from what you truly want. So it's forensic healing is a non-invasive way. It's exactly like muscle testing, very non-invasive. You just lay and you just be open to let your body give us the answers that we need to help you. It's a beautiful tool, but you have to be willing to receive.
100%. It is looking directly in the mirror, you know, and letting go of everything that we're holding to protect ourselves, and really letting that mirror shine back at us to show us, you know. And that's the beauty of our bodies and our environment. It is just a mirror reflection of what's within, and all those answers that we need are within as well.
And this is the thing, we can stand here before you today and say, all right, we know how to identify when there's emotional trauma and blockages in the body. But this is only because, one, we're practitioners, and two, because we've actually experienced these things firsthand for ourselves. I've experienced emotional blockages in my shoulder. You know, I went to see my remedial therapist, and you know, countless therapists to try to like, there's something in my shoulder, I just can't release it. But it wasn't until I had that emotional healing that I was able to loosen that shoulder, and the same thing in my hip. So and also as a practitioner, having had that experience with the Reiki and releasing people firsthand on my massage table, you wouldn't believe it unless you see it or you experience it yourself. What was your first experience with realizing that you had some pent up emotional trauma that you thought you may have dealt with already, but it reared its ugly head at a, let's say, it just caught you by surprise?
Yeah. I like growing up, I had a lot of dad issues, like a poor relationship with my dad. So I'd spent already years working through this, with psychologists, doing timeline therapy, all different types of modalities, to heal that emotional trauma and the damage that had been done. And there was a time there, it was only a few years ago, where I had a falling out with my dad. Not so much a falling out, but I set some boundaries. I was like, okay, for our relationship, to continue, this is how it's going to be. And I was totally fine with it. So I thought I was. And it was just 2 weeks later, we were out for dinner and he was sitting across from me at the table. And when we turned up, I was kind of like, I kind of hope I'm not sitting right near him. So then, I can enjoy the night and that sort of thing. But if he did, like, we're adults and I'm totally fine. I've put this behind me and it is what it is. And so sure enough, when we sit down, he ends up sitting right across from me. And he was with his sister as well. So we were there just about to eat dinner and I got this metallic taste in my mouth. It was so metallic. It tasted like blood and it was quite concerning. And at the time, my son, I was there, had one child then, and my husband wasn't at the dinner. He was at basketball. So I was there on my own as far as driving there. But I got this metallic taste in my mouth and I was so convinced it was blood that I decided to just try and spit a bit out on my hand, as gross as that sounds, but I was quite concerned. And there was nothing there, like there was no red. And I was like, oh, what was that? And then I got this really sharp pain around my epigastric, where the epigastric meridian point is. So I was kind of like, oh, what's that? Digestion, what's going on here? And the pain started to get worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was kind of paralyzed by the pain. And then I got this shudder up my left arm and this pain in my heart. And I started to panic a bit because my dad has heart issues run in the family. And so having him and my auntie sitting across from me, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my goodness, heart, and doing first aid by then probably 9 times over, the symptoms of a heart attack as well. But yeah, I was kind of like, heart attack, panic attack, what is going on here? And my skin was white, and I was clammy. Like I've never seen my skin so pale, it was ghost white. And I didn't want to draw attention to myself. So I got on the phone to nurse on call. And while I was on the phone to her, I was explaining like all my symptoms, and she had already sent the ambulance to us. It got to the point where families started to catch on of like what's going on here. And they carried me out to the toilets. And I was just sitting on the floor in there, and I was really concerned like about my son. I was like panicking, like, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? And this fear. And as I was down on the ground, I kind of called out to my guides, and I was like, help me, like what is going on? Help me. In the next minute, and in the meantime too, they were giving me aspirin because I was treating it like it was a heart attack.
Of course.
But I was able, in that moment, to take a big gasp, and on that exhale, I was fine. Like I was like, oh my goodness, I'm fine. It just, everything left me in that second. And I stood up and I'm like, I feel fine, guys. And as I did that, the paramedics have walked through the door, busted open the doors. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And they're like, no, come out, we'll run some tests. So long story short, ran all these tests. I was at the Austin hospital for like 4 hours. They released me. They couldn't find anything wrong. I was in the meantime trying to get my husband to help me muscle test myself in the emergency waiting room to try and narrow down, what was going on. And they were also running all their tests to see. I'd narrowed it down to gallbladder. And by the end of the night, they'd also said gallbladder. So they sent me off they just said, go and get a CT scan on the gallbladder, which I went and did. And that also came back clear, no issue. So that was the incident that really started to make me look into the other side. And so I started researching metaphysical, meaning behind the gallbladder. And it was all to do with anger. So this was built up anger that I was suppressing. And this is the thing with the body, right? And the mind. The mind tells us, oh, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. The body can't keep up with that. The body will play along and go, yeah, I'm fine. But then these symptoms are going to show up. And that's actually what happened in that moment. So I knew that there was more anger to be addressed there. I was shutting it down. Yeah.
So what did you do to combat that? Or was that just did you just take that as a sign now to that there was more that you needed to
There was more work, more layers, and this is the thing with like healing ourselves and working through, unfortunate circumstances and trauma and all of these things. There's so many layers to it, so it's just another layer to keep working through.
That's an important tip. That's an important thing. I don't want to skim over that because even in my own experience, I feel like I've done a lot of work on past traumas and things in my life, and then you find another layer. And you're just like, I thought I was done with this. Like I thought I've done all the things. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think only recently I've just learned to accept that it's okay to discover more pain to past pains. It's all part of the healing process. It's like the layers of the skin. It's like what we see on the external, there's many, many more layers underneath that we don't see that need to heal when we are wounded and etc. So don't feel like, oh, I thought I've done all the work. I've seen, all the professionals that have helped me. I thought I was done with this. If you find another layer, just appreciate it, how far you've come beyond that.
Yeah. And having gratitude for it as well, and that can be really hard, but it's like, as this pain comes back up to the surface, it's like, that's another, turn your pain into power, step into that, and it's appreciating that journey and going, thank you to my body for showing me that there was more to be released. This is all part of us healing ourselves and aligning ourselves more of like our soul mission. It kind of almost, it falls into that. What are we actually here for? What lessons are we here to learn?
Yeah I think it's important to embrace our wounds and turn them into wisdom. And so what would you say then if someone suspected that they perhaps were holding trauma or emotions within their body? Like, what would be a sign of that, do you think?
So different types of pain, like physical pain. So it could be, in the joints, it could be muscular pain. And if you've been going to see, like you mentioned earlier, seeing, massage therapists and having all of these different types of treatment, and there's still no release or it keeps coming back, there might be an emotional layer to that. It can be with digestive issues. They can show up in so many different ways, inflammation in the body. Like there's so many different symptoms that show up from trapped emotions and trauma that we've kind of put a lid on. And this is where it goes even more crazy, because sometimes it can be beyond this lifetime as well. So
like past life. All right, maybe we won't open that can of
worms.
No,
we won't go down that
path.
That
definitely helped me, but like, let's maybe not open Pandora's box today. But that was the thing. When I was getting the remedial on my shoulder, I knew, because I am a remedial. I was like, I'd done the work on myself. I'd had someone I trust do the work on me. And I'm like, there's got to be something else here. And I think if I can give anyone some suggestion, that before you go down the surgery path and think, oh, well, there must be something surgical, it has to be mended that way, try an alternative way of trying to find a remedy for it. And you just never know. you might surprise yourself.
100%. Yeah. I know. Well, this is the thing, how many people are getting their gallbladder out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah. And then how many people are holding on to anger?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much to it. So much to it.
So Annette, we were talking about how the blockages can be felt in the body, and the emotional and I guess spiritual side of it, but how can it also present itself physically in the body and also create those barriers and limitations in our physical abilities?
Yeah, well, possibly to in our physical actions. So something that I found at a stage in my life where I really needed change, I began running, and cardio was my outlet. And it's funny when you think about running, you're running away from something, and it's like every day I had to run. And then when I joined the gym, I would absolutely thrash the cardio equipment. But when I look back now, it was me trying to release those emotions like that was trapped in me, because physically, like, it's stored in the muscles. So that's why exercise felt so good too, because it was a release. It was me, pounding the equipment. Even when I started weight training, it was that expression of, pushing, lifting, pulling, all of those things. Every time it was like, kind of like, oh, like, it was just that release, of allowing us to release that emotion. So that can definitely be a way as well, and a great tool, a great tool.
I've been there, and as you say that, I go back there and I just remember like how good it felt to just smash weights and but you're smashing yourself and you're thinking this is for the greater good of all, and then you break down and then
injury happens.
But it happens all the time. I'm sure you've had a million people come to you as I have to me, and they're just I'm like they want to smash themselves and they want
to smash me. I want you to smash me.
Basically. So in your experience then, so when did you realize that there was another reason, or there was another layer to the reasoning behind this?
I was depressed. Yeah, so it was like mental health started to show up. It was like I was pushing myself, and I was so happy at the gym, so happy at the gym. I was going morning and night like it was my life. But when I wasn't at the gym, I wasn't happy. Yeah, it was like I was so unfulfilled, and that's where I knew there was work to be done, more work to be done. It's like, to have that peace in all areas of your life, not just feeling that fulfillment when you're out there smashing yourself. It's being happy and content just in your day-to-day, your norm, your life. So if there's parts of my life, it was like, for example, that moment of walking into my front door at home, it was kind of like, okay, I'd left my day job behind and I was free. I saw myself as free walking out those doors. But then when I opened the door to my own life, it was kind of like, oh, now what? I was just, I just felt something was missing. So it was depression. It was depression that underlined that. But for me, my depression wasn't so much a chemical imbalance. It was because of the way I was living my life. Like it came back to my beliefs. It was me believing that I had to live a certain way to be approved, by others, and live up to, a higher standard of living, or, what was acceptable by, those who I respected. So I realized at age 30 that I'd been living a life where I completely denied my own happiness and my own needs because I thought I was doing the right thing. And I was always putting myself second. So that was the cause of my depression. So by addressing that, that's what got rid of, the mental health issues that I was suffering with as well.
Wow. And I hope that if you're listening to Annette's story, that this isn't just a one-off. This is a very common is happening. Like I see this all the time, and it happens everywhere, and people are inundated with the the values and beliefs of the people that they're around, and then they start to embrace it as their own, and then they start to lose their sense of identity and who and what they really who they really are. And I think that's what really opened me up to let's say that outer layer of seeking alternative therapies, because I knew I was doing everything I possibly thought I could do, all the different therapists, the chiropractors, I was doing all of those sorts of things, but there was still just unexplainable pain within me. And it was just by going in and with an open mind and allowing myself to explore was when I was able to really make some headway and make some changes and discover who I truly am at the core.
Yeah. We're kindred spirits. Yeah. Totally relate to that. Totally. And I have to admit too, like the fear as well, letting go of that fear. For me, it was fear that was stopping me from seeking the healing that I needed and the help that I needed, to pull myself out from where I was, the conditioning and the programming, that had kept me, that got me to where I was. But when you're at that point, because you get to a point where it's like, I can't continue anymore. I had no choice. Yeah, had no choice but to break out of this mold that I was in, and at whatever cost. I got to a point where it's like, I can't afford to not change right now. I can't afford to not take this risk and step into this unknown area. But that's where all the blessings came. Yeah.
That's where growth is usually birthed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, 100%. It takes having to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
To actually, because you've got nowhere to look but up or out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's hard, because I wish nothing more than to prevent people from reaching that point.
Yeah.
But that truly is where that growth really comes from. And I think that's when I speak about summoning your superhuman. It's those times where you feel like there isn't any more, or I can't, or this is impossible. And then you just out of nowhere discover this inner power to achieve a higher level. So you were just about to touch on that. You were speaking about this point where you were about to burn the ships. Like the ships, actually, the ships were burnt. There is no plan B now.
No.
It's this or nothing. So
exactly. Yeah, it was a point where it was like, without spending time going into where I was at that point, but it was to do with my beliefs and a religion that I was caught up with. And in my mind, if I walked away from that religion, I was dead anyway, So, but the point I was at that time was I was so depressed and miserable doing the right thing that I didn't even want to live anyway. And so I was like, what type of life is this? I may as well just go and do my thing. And if I get a year or two of doing my thing and then I'm dead, at least I've got a year or two of actually living happy, So it was that risk at that time. I truly believed that was the step I was taking. Little did I know that by taking that step, it broke me out of the beliefs and the conditioning, because I started to live my life. I started to do the things that brought me fulfillment. I found my passion and I just followed it. And from there, everything happened. I created a business that was successful. I kept investing in myself and developing myself. And it wasn't until it was almost like 7 years into that journey was when I found out that the religion I was involved with was actually a cult, So, and I'd never gone outside the research that the organisation had produced because of fear that was, drummed into me. Only listen, it was our research. We've got everything. We've got all these publications. You want research? Here, look at that book. Look at that book. Go to the Bible. All of this sort of stuff, right? It was all interwebbed and laced in to keep us trapped.
Yep.
So I took that step that was like, I'm going to die anyway. It was by doing that I found my path, and then realized, and when I found out the real truth, that, you know, I was like, oh my goodness, you know, and how lucky am I that I just got out, and instead of putting my time and energy into trying to prove what I was doing was right, like, and making sense, I just followed my heart, you know, and let my heart and my soul lead me. And, you know, that's where sometimes this false sense of peace comes up as well. So sometimes peace, we think that, you know, peace is, you know, just making sure everyone else is happy around us, and then there's peace. Well, when you do that, you've got disruption in your body. So, you know, sometimes the peace is walking away from something and not putting energy into something that's broken or not working for you, putting your energy into something else that, you know, is going to fulfill you. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I love, there's so many things there that I could touch upon. It's fear, you know, fear is the biggest preventer of any of us taking the steps forward that we know in our heart that we want to truly be doing. And then by not doing what we want to truly be doing in our heart, we feel pain. And then that pain transfers to, you know, parts of our body where we later go, well, why do I feel pain there? And then going through the process of going, well, it's because you didn't take that step. You were meant to go down, or you wanted to try this thing, but you didn't do it because you were scared. And now you've got a sore shoulder, perhaps, you know, or you might have that anxiety attack. Because I've had that too. I thought I was having a heart attack. So all the symptoms are there.
Yeah.
It's the same, you know, when it pronounces itself as an anxiety attack, it's you can't ignore it. So then you're just like, okay, well, what's the real root of the problem?
Exactly. Yeah.
But the thing that you said was like, well, if I'm going to die in a couple of years anyway, I might as well die happy and try to pursue what my heart feels like it's called to do.
Yeah.
And then in that, you found your path and the direction that was, quote, right for you, because you kept saying, I was trying to do what was right.
Yeah.
And what I was taught was right. But then what was truly right for you was in your heart, but it was trapped because it was within the confines of everything and everyone around you at that time.
Yeah. And, you know, Ria, like there was a point there, like that point that you've just highlighted there. I got to that 10 years earlier as well. And I left. I walked away from that religion, but I had so much anger and fear, and I just wanted to hide away from it all. I wasn't willing to look in the mirror, and I had so much fear of addressing it because I'd been taught to fear, you know, of looking into anything else and that sort of thing. So I ignored that and I blocked that down. But that was an opportunity there for me to explore that, and I didn't. And to cope, that's where I turned to alcohol and drugs and things like that. So I tried to do it my way, and it was the wrong way. So again, I didn't get that fulfillment. So that's where addressing like this trapped emotion and those beliefs, those limiting beliefs and things like that, why that is so important. Because when we don't, we just mask it over with addictions, and, you know, or it might not even be addictions. It might be with our work, keeping ourselves so busy that we fail to look at what is actually going on under there, and why is this presenting? Why is life the way it is right now? So yeah, there's so much to it.
100%. But the thing is, because you didn't endeavor to unfold it 10 years ago, doesn't mean that your way wasn't the right way. That was just you needed to go through all of that.
100%.
You know? And the same way I look back on what I've gone through and I go, I needed to go through that, even though it was a long, painful process, because it only helps us have greater empathy for the people who we work with, and that understanding of what they're going through. Because when people come to me and they say, you know, I'm addicted to soft drinks, you know, I don't want to just say drugs and alcohol, because it's not just that. You know, people are addicted to sugar. Sugar is a drug. Bread, opiates, like, you know, there's so many different things, and busyness in itself, like I'm too busy to go within and search, so I'll just keep myself even busier so that I don't have to think about all these other things. That we all have a way of escaping the reality of whatever hurt is inside. But the greatest way is to just push forward and break through.
Yeah. Dig deep, uncover,
Yeah.
ask yourself why is this showing up.
Before it literally makes you sick and it appears as dis-ease in the body in some other way. Either way, the body never lies, and it will come to collect at some point.
It will.
So it's better to deal with it ASAP. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about there, but I think I want to ask you a question that I have asked everyone so far. And Annette, what does summoning your superhuman mean to you?
It's just, for me, it's about quietening the mind and going within and connecting to our higher self. Connecting to our higher self, being still and tapping in. And I guess I say that because I spent so many years seeking answers from outside when all along it was within.
I'm nodding just very big nods to that. That's wow, that says it all, really. It really does. And I've been there too. We seek outwards for what is truly within us. And I agree with you. I really think that is what summoning your superhuman really is about.
Yeah, we are so powerful. We really are.
We really, really are. Well, thank you so much, Annette. Is there any parting advice or any tips or any last words that you want to share for people who have gone through some trauma in their life and may need that extra encouragement to take the next step?
Trust the calling that's coming, that's screaming from within. Trust that you need to take this step, and I can't even explain the blessings that come from doing that. You'll do it, and it will just feel right when you do it. You will feel free by doing it, and just follow that guidance, because your body, the environment around you, everything is reflecting what is within you, what needs to be changed. So use that. That's your inner compass. Follow that, and it's the light. It's the light that's going to shine the way to get you from where you are now to live a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. And I can't explain that enough. The life I have today, I never thought was possible. But if it's possible for me to achieve, it's possible for anybody.
Amazing. Yeah. And I hope that those words will touch someone in a way to give them, even if it's just hope, that there is a better result for them, or a better way of being or feeling. Let this be the courage, the encouraging nudge to find yourself and begin the journey to true self-discovery and summoning your superhuman. And I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today, Annette.
Thank you, Ria.
Annette and I are going to be collaborating on some Clubhouse rooms where we can really dive deeper into such topics. I mean, you can hear that there's such diverse knowledge we both have. And Annette is someone that I trust so much that if I had missed a point, I know that she'll have my back and she'll carry it over. I really feel like with the two of us, you've got two Wonder Women. So keep your eye out for that. And thank you again for now.
Thank you, Ria. So appreciated.